Alas, it is the end as we know it. As of June 2024, the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio will end production as we know this car today. Alfa does say that the Quadrifoglio badge will return, but not on a gasoline-only vehicle. It'll probably be some sort of hybrid or an EV. We don't know yet. So if you want a Giulia Quadrifoglio without any sort of hybrid augmentation or anything like that, you better get it now. So then, what's this car like to live with on a day-to-day basis? Let's go for a drive and find out. This very pretty Alfa Romeo has the heart of a Ferrari. So under the carbon fiber hood with functional air vents is a Ferrari-derived 2.9-liter twin-turbocharged V6 engine. It produces 505 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque. All that power goes to the back wheels only through an 8-speed automatic transmission and a limited slip differential. Alfa Romeo claims a 0 to 100 km/h sprint in about 3.8 seconds. From the moment you start driving this car, you get the impression that this engine does not like being at low RPMs. It is much happier being in the mid and high RPM range. Although the red line is only at 6,500 RPMs, this engine feels much more alive in that RPM band than it does down at city speeds around 2,000 RPMs. In fact, this engine loves higher RPM so much that at idle, it's at 1,000 RPMs. Normally, other engines idle somewhere around 600 to about 750 RPMs, but this one is at 1,000. At these lower RPMs, the engine picks up at a pretty okay pace, but it's only once you get past 3,000 RPMs do the turbochargers build max boost, and then you really get going. And what a noise this engine also produces at those higher RPMs. Have a listen to it again. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at things, you don't hear that much of the engine inside the cabin. The cabin is very well isolated. The 8-speed automatic is fabulous as well at changing gears. They are very smooth in the N and A drive modes, but you do feel them a lot more in the D and race drive modes. It also knows exactly what the driver wants. Every time that you put your foot down, it immediately downshifts to the appropriate gear and away you go. Or if you decide to use the paddle shifters, it reacts very quickly. I just realized how many times I said RPM in the last 2.5 minutes. Did you count how many times I said it? It was 11. Anyway, as I alluded to a moment ago, the Giulia has 3 drive modes with this Quadrifoglio providing a 4th. The drive modes are dynamic, natural, and advanced efficiency. They spell out the acronym for DNA. The 4th mode is race. This Ferrari-derived engine is also quite economical, relatively speaking that is. It's rated for 13.5 liters per 100 kilometers in a city and 9.3 liters per 100 kilometers on a highway. Now, I should say that while I had this car on demo, I took a 1,000-kilometer trip which involved a lot of highway driving. Before the trip, I averaged 12.5 liters per 100 kilometers, which is still very respectable for a 500 horsepower car. After the trip, I returned the car to Alfa Romeo with an average fuel consumption of 10.1 liters per 100 kilometers. What about reliability then? As we all know, Alfa Romeos have a stereotype of not being the most reliable vehicles out there. But as I mentioned earlier, I took this car on a 1,000 kilometer trip, that's roughly 600 miles or so, through the mountains of British Columbia. And the car performed flawlessly, going up the mountains, back down the mountains, on more entertaining roads at a slightly higher speed, and through city traffic, no issues whatsoever. The car never overheated in roughly 30 degrees Celsius temperatures and never threw a check engine light. It didn't even get a puncture. It performed flawlessly. And also, the previous two times that I drove Alfa Romeo vehicles, the standard Stelvio and the standard Giulia, I asked the owners in those videos to comment on them and let us know if there were any major issues with their vehicles. And all the owners said that they haven't had any major issues. They performed flawlessly. The only biggest replacement that they had was the battery, and that was it. So I wonder if it's the same thing with this twin-turbo V6. So if you are an owner of an Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, please let us know how your ownership has been like. With a nearly perfect 50-50 weight distribution and the new mechanical limited slip differential that this 2024 Giulia Quadrifoglio gets, it is a joy to drive on winding roads. It has a fast steering ratio with a stable front end which reacts immediately. In dry conditions, the back end feels planted with the LSD providing predictable and controllable slides should you apply too much throttle out of a corner. And the adaptive dampers provide good body control and ensure that the tires are staying planted to the tarmac. Being an Italian car, it comes equipped with Italian brakes. As such, 6-piston front Brembo calipers provide the bulk of the stopping force. In the back, there are 4-piston calipers with a separate caliper for the parking brakes. The brakes are a bit overly assisted because it takes almost no effort from your right foot to bring the car to a stop in everyday driving situations. So if you have a heavy foot, it'll take you a while to get used to them, but eventually you will. Overall, it's as though Ferrari created a compact sedan at 1/3 the price of their supercars. It is an absolute joy to drive the Giulia Quadrifoglio on backcountry roads. You would think that this Quadrifoglio, being a much more sporty version of the standard Giulia, that the ride would be very harsh and very uncomfortable to drive on city streets. But that's not the case. The adaptive dampers are fabulous on city streets. Yes, the car jiggles around a little bit more than the standard Giulia, but the bumps are very well absorbed by the suspension. On my 1,000 kilometer trip, I did not feel any sort of back pain or numb buttocks or anything like that. I was very comfortable on boring long highways, through interesting roads, and even on bumpy roads. This car handled it fabulously. And of course, part of that comfort is also down to the seats. They have plenty of support, they are very comfortable, and they still keep you in them once you're driving a little bit more enthusiastically. You don't really slide around in them all that much. As for noises inside the cabin, there is some tire noise intruding into it, especially when you drive on more porous roads. But when you drive on smooth and fresh asphalt, it's not so bad. And also, as you can probably hear, if you drive over some rocks or sand, the tires will pick them up and hit them up against the wheel wells, so you will hear that. As for engine noises, as I mentioned earlier, it is quite subdued in here. It is much louder from the outside. So it would have been nice if Alfa Romeo gave this car a louder exhaust, but I think due to government regulations, they couldn't really do that. You can open up the exhaust valves by putting your foot down or changing the drive modes to D or race, and that'll open up the exhaust valves. But if you do that, then of course fuel economy is going to go down the drain. It would have been nice if there was a dedicated button to just open up the exhaust valves whenever the driver wanted to. The Giulia Quadrifoglio has a little bit more legroom in the front seats than the BMW M3. However, it has less headroom in the front row. But even so, with the seat in its lowest position, there is just enough headroom for my tall height of 6'4", while also wearing a helmet for track days. Visibility out the car is good for seeing out the front and directly to the side. The exterior mirrors are well sized and the view out the back is acceptable. It's the blind zone over the left shoulder that is limited as the Giulia has very thick B-pillars. The back seats of the Giulia are not as commodious as the fronts. For my tall height behind my tall driving position, there is very little legroom. The BMW M3 has a little bit more legroom in its back seats. Headroom is also tight for my tall stature. The trunk is a little bit bigger than that of the M3 at 374 liters. The backrest can fold down 40-20-40, and with this being a performance sedan, there is no spare wheel to weigh it down under the trunk floor. The 2024 Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio starts at $99,840 Canadian. The Mazzano blue paint and red brake calipers were the only options to this demo car, which added just over $1,600 Canadian to the price tag. Though it is a luxury car with a six-figure price tag, it has just enough convenience features, but it is missing a few. For a start, it has heated front seats along with a heated steering wheel, leather upholstery, fully adjustable front seats, built-in navigation system, front and rear parking sensors, and a full suite of advanced driver and safety aids, which include automatic emergency braking, lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, and blind spot sensors. There's also a wireless phone charging pad. What's missing and would have been nice add-ons are features such as a head-up display, ventilated front seats, rear heated seats, and surround view cameras. However, there is a big elephant in the cabin, which is the infotainment system. It is displayed on an 8.8-inch touchscreen which responds quickly. The infotainment can also be controlled through the rotary dial on the center console should you not want to get fingerprints on the screen. But the system itself is laggy with choppy graphics. Navigating around it isn't too bad once you know where every function is, but I'd go so far as to say that the latest Uconnect system from Stellantis is better than this one. The slow responsiveness of the system is what frustrated me the most. And finally, from every angle, this car is gorgeous to behold. It has just enough sharp lines merging with smooth flowing curves all over the body. The large 19-inch wheels fill the wheel wells perfectly, and the car has a good looking ride height but without being so low that it'll scratch the carbon fiber splitter. Speaking of which, it moves up and down depending on the speed of the car for better aerodynamics and stability. This car is a head turner wherever it goes. In the end, this is just about the perfect sports sedan that you can no longer buy. Had Alfa Romeo decided to continue selling this car into 2025 and onwards, there are just a couple of changes that I would have liked to see happen to this car. Firstly is the infotainment system. It needs a complete overhaul. And secondly, it would be nice if it had a slightly louder exhaust along with customizable drive modes. But otherwise, it is very, very comfortable to live with on a day-to-day basis and absolutely glorious to drive on twisting and winding backcountry roads, or if you have the opportunity to take it to a racetrack. In the meantime, if you would like to know more about this 2024 Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, and I hope I've been pronouncing that correctly, apparently you're not supposed to say the G and the L at the end. But anyway, if you would like to know more about this car, I have a written review with a few more details about it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner right up there. And as always, I will see you in the next car or truck or most likely an SUV that is probably not as fun to drive as this car is. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and see you in the next one.